what does an Arthur Smith's offense, what does it actually look like? Well, under him, I think the first thing is you got to think they're going to run the football. Now, I know all Steeler teams want to try to run the football, but when I say run the football, they're going to run it with a lot more imagination. They're also going to try to throw the ball down the field, which we know that that's something that just has not been done in Pittsburgh consistently in a long time. We just have not thrown the ball down the field. The one thing to keep in mind is that this is a man that in 2020 made Ryan Tannehill look like an all-world quarterback. Now, you can say whatever you want, but I always call Tannehill basket case Tannehill because the guy, you just absolutely don't know what you get. But for a season under him, he made Arthur Smith, I should say, made Ryan Tannehill look like an all-world quarterback. And if he can do that for him, I got to believe for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, I got to believe he's going to be able to do close to the same thing. Now, I know Derrick Henry helped a heck of a lot with Ryan Tannehill. I get that. But I got to believe with what the Steelers have in place that he should be able to do some of the same things here in Pittsburgh. Let's take a look and see some of the stuff that we're going to need or we've already done for this Arthur Smith offense to work. The first thing is a rebuilt offensive line that fits his system. Yeah, that's number one. Look, the Steelers' offensive line, and we all know it, it's been just absolute garbage. You could say the last 4 years, it's been bad. It's been bad. Well, they rebuilt it. Adding Zach Frazier, tackle Troy Fatanu, adding those guys to the offensive line as day one starters, yes, that helped. That helps. Look, God bless Dan Moore Jr., but I'm sorry. It's just time to move on. It's time to move on. And we're better. When you add Broderick Jones, James Daniels, and Isaac Seumalo, you add all of those guys as the starters, they have a good offensive line. Now, you still got to do it on the field, but you look at it on paper, this is a really good offensive line. I'm excited about it. Very excited about it. And one of the things is they're going to be able to do more stuff because in previous seasons, if you look at the Steelers, first of all, the Steelers used to do things and run zone blocking schemes that I knew that Steeler fans couldn't stand under Matt Canada because you knew it was coming. That was the whole thing. You knew it was coming no matter what. Based on the formation, it was like, oh my God, we're running outside zone. Najee's in the game. He's terrible moving laterally. We're going to lose 4 yards. Boom, we lost 4 yards. I'm like, just run downhill. That's all these guys can do. Well, now we can do a little bit more. We've got number one, we've got better players. But number two, the imagination of the offensive coordinator, we're not going to be able to call out the plays before they happen like we could under Matt Canada. So that's number one. So the outside zone that we've become accustomed to, we're going to be able to bring that back in to our offense, but we'll be able to run it with more imagination. That's the difference, people, is it's not going to be so predictable. Lord have mercy. It was just a nightmare watching it. Oh, my God, we're running toss sweep. Why are we running toss sweep with Najee Harris, number one? And number two, why are we running with guys that are not capable of doing the job out there? Terrible. Just terrible. Trick them up with formation. Do something. Matt Canada wasn't able to do that. Steelers' running game suffered. We've got better players. We got better imagination. The offense and the running game will be better, people. It will be better. Now, the second part is, like I talked about, the play calling. The imagination, it just wasn't there. I mean, look, we were in Matt Canada, like I said, Matt Canada offensive hell for what, 3 years? And it just, depending on down and distance, you just knew what was coming. And we got to get away from that. And we will get away from that. I know people are looking at Atlanta and they look at just last year and they think, well, how good was the offense? Well, first of all, they had a really good line in Atlanta. And running the ball was never the problem. So we'll be fine running the ball. but we're also going to be able to run play action and push the ball down the field. We're not going to just run play action and then run a comeback route for 8 yards. That's not what this offense is going to be. Okay? We're going to push the ball down the field. More importantly, push the ball down the middle of the field. That's what's going to be important. We haven't done that in, Lord have mercy, I don't know how long. Just play action, put it in the guy's belly, take it out, turn around, find somebody open over the middle of the field once the linebackers have sucked up. We can do that. Arthur Smith offense is an offense that is absolutely capable of doing that. So that's going to be another thing that we're going to be better. Like I said, Tannehill, think Ryan Tannehill 2020. Get back to that. Smith used play action a ton. I get it. It was Derrick Henry running the ball. But I don't think it matters whether you have Derrick Henry or who you have. If you're able to run the ball effectively, play action is going to work. It's not about necessarily who's back there. As long as you're doing the job, that's what matters. Lastly, Pat Freiermuth. Welcome back to the chat, man. Look, he was hurt last year, and it affected him all year. And he just didn't have, other than that one Cincinnati game, he disappeared after that. Part of that, I think, was offense. Part of it was defense saying, look, we know you're not going to challenge us outside throwing deep, so we're going to take away Freiermuth and make you do something different. And the offense just didn't do that. If Freiermuth is healthy, he's going to dominate in this system. Look, you could talk about, look at Kyle Pitts. And I know you're going to say the last 2 years hadn't been great, but his rookie year, he set receiving records. And he got hurt. That was the thing about Kyle Pitts. He got hurt, and I'm not sure that he's ever been fully healthy since then. But he's still he's been effective when used. But that's kind of the thing about an Arthur Smith offense. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. But they spread it around. But Pat Freiermuth, I just think, is going to be gigantic when you talk about what this offense can be, for the simple fact that they can move Pat Freiermuth out to the slot. They did that a lot with Kyle Pitts. Freiermuth is the same. I'm not saying he's the same athletically, but similar. He can do that, which is one of the reasons why I think the Steelers haven't just run out there and signed all these other receivers. They're taking their time, doing their due diligence, and saying, look, we may not have the best weapons, but we got effective weapons. We don't need to give up draft picks to go out and get these guys, especially give up the farm to go get some of these guys. Just watch. And first of all, the trade rumors about Pat Freiermuth are insane. He's not going anywhere. That's the one guy that I can say. I think he gets a deal done before the summer's up or before the season gets started. Pat Freiermuth will be signed to an extension. They love him. He loves Pittsburgh. He's going to be great in this offense. He's not going anywhere. Not anywhere. And I think he's going to be big. Now, the one thing about this Arthur Smith offense, I'm sorry, Steeler fans. If you're fantasy football, probably not going to want to have a lot of Steelers. The reason being is, again, look at Arthur Smith and what he did in Atlanta. He's got guys. They're effective, but he spreads it around. He's not going to just, okay, you're having a great game, fine, but you know what? We're doing something else with somebody else. That's kind of how he works. I don't know if that's the best thing to do, but as long as we're winning football games, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to argue. And I don't think you should either. So, again, fantasy football-wise, as tough as it can be sometimes, outside of George Pickens, I don't think there's going to be anybody that's just going to have this, oh, man, I got to have him on my fantasy football team. Maybe Freiermuth, definitely Pickens. But outside of that, you're like, let's pump the brakes. So just something to keep in mind, people. Just something to keep in mind.